Hello and welcome to another Dram 1 review. And today we'll be having a look at the Milk and Honey Sherry Cask, the World Best Single Malt of 2023. Milk and Honey Sherry Cask. That's, like I said, what we'll be reviewing today. And it means we're in for a treat. It just won the award for Best Single Malt Whiskey in the entire world, which means it beat Scotland, Japan, etc. Well, not just the nation, of course, but all the whiskies from there. And Israel just has the one distillery, that's this Milk and Honey, and still they took the crown. So we should be in for a treat. And what I personally like about this whiskey is it's so much more than just the awards. The awards are nice, but let's talk about awards for a little bit. I used to love them and now I don't really care for them. Let me explain that a bit in detail. I was talking about it with my girlfriend the other day and I was telling her, like, when I look for a wine, we sometimes like a wine with dinner, I still look at the awards. Why? Because at least I'll know it'll be a decent wine if it has won some awards. It might not be the best ever, it might not be the best suited for my palate ever, but I know it's gonna be good quality. I used to do the same with whiskey. When I was just getting into whiskey, I would look at something and think like, oh, it has won awards, and I think like, let's try that. And then you start discovering your own preferences, the things you like. And it turns out I like whiskey so much that now I know usually what I like. And that doesn't mean that if it wins an award that it will be my cup of tea, and the same might be said for you. It will probably tell you that it's a well-made whiskey, but there are so many well-made whiskeys out there and there are so many awards out there, and that's why the winner isn't always the same. But nonetheless, this is like one hell of a congratulations from me to the distillery, because they are wonderful people. I met them a few times at festivals and they put so much passion into their product and they stay true to who they are. The single malts from Milk and Honey are kosher. It has a little label on the back that says it's kosher. And you might think, like, what is a kosher whiskey? What does that say about a whiskey? Well, let me explain some small facts. Is first of all that during Passover, Jewish people can't have own products made from main grains, which means barley, etc. So you couldn't keep your whiskey. Couldn't own whiskey during Passover. So there's different solutions, workarounds for that, and that's all closely guarded. But it makes it a challenge to be a kosher distillery. And if you want a kosher product, you need a kosher distillery. Because if it's not a kosher distillery, your product won't be either. And that goes much further than that. What makes this sherry cask so special is that the sherry cask needs to be kosher as well. The sherry that went into it. And to make sure that was true, I wanted to say rented, but yeah, this is a one take. I'm not gonna take it out, but you don't rent them. But they hired 2 rabbis to oversee the production of 50,000 liters of sherry in Jerez, just so they could make sure that their product was still kosher. They went to extreme lengths because their passion for whiskey, they wanted to include sherry cask. It would have been so much easier to just cut out that maturation, to focus on bourbon maturation, because it's easier to get casks of bourbon that are already checked to be kosher. Buffalo Trace makes a kosher bourbon, for example. You could get those casks and you could play it safe. But no, they went to extreme lengths, and it's wonderful to see that they really did everything they could to make the product they wanted to make. They followed their passion and it paid off, because they are the best in the world right now. So, without further ado, let me get into the whiskey itself. Let's enjoy it and let's see what the jury found so amazing in this dram. Slange. This is instantly, the sherry is so apparent. It's so fruity and like a lot of fruit. Like I'm finding cherries and a wonderful dried strawberry note that I'm absolutely loving. That is wonderfully done. And there's figs and there's plums and there's just, it's a fruit, it's a sherry bomb on the nose, and it is all fruit and yeah, delicious. Makes me think of dessert. Let's try a sip. Immediately you are greeted by much darker notes. Don't get me wrong, the fruit, the strawberries, the cranberries, it's still there. It's wonderfully sweet, but it becomes balanced. There is a lot of influence from the tannins. Of course, Israel is a very hot climate, so the aging goes fast. So the wood has a lot of impact on the flavor. Especially, I think, sherry wood, because when you use a sherry is a lower percentage of alcohol, so it pulls a lot less flavors out of the barrel than a bourbon does. So you get a barrel that has the ability to give off a lot more wooden flavors. But in Scotland, for example, with the mild temperature, that process is slow, but in Israel it goes fast. The heat dissipation, it goes fast. So it's in there. It has a darker side. It has a bit of sulfur even. There is oak. There is licorice root. I am loving this side of the dram because it makes it complex. It makes it bold. It gives you so much more than just the sweetness. It is just beginning and end, and it's absolutely a lovely palate. A lovely palate. And while I'm talking, let me try to show you a bit of the color. Natural color, unchill filtered, an absolutely stunning dram. But I'm giving a lot of compliments. Does that mean this is the perfect dram for me? No, not necessarily. Like, for example, Milk and Honey, they have a Dead Sea cask that I tried, and I prefer that over this because I like to be a bit challenged. And I can see why this scores so high. It is a great whiskey, it's bold, it's complex, it has everything you want, but it doesn't really challenge you. It's not out there, it's not the most complex ever either. This is what I would call a crowd pleaser. I think this is one that's gonna go fast on my shelf, because when you want something nice, you know it's nice, or you just want to sip something, or you just want to grab something that you know your friends or will like, then this fits the bill perfectly. But then again, if you really want to experience something a crazy adventure or whatever, some whiskey to really take you for a ride, this is not it for me, but that's okay. But that's what also a thing with the awards is to keep in mind. It is aimed at what is really the world's best whiskey, is what most people will enjoy. But if I like a heavily sherry peated dram, for example, the next person might not. The other day, I think it's a funny story, is like I was letting my mom try some whiskies. I say for the first time, it's not the first time, but before that she only drank Canadian whiskey sometimes, very light, very mild. And I gave her a glass of that to start with. And she was indeed like, yes, this is indeed what I like. But we ended that little tasting with PX finished Kalila. And that was by far her favorite, because the memories kept rushing back. Because she used to have a little peat stove at their place with my grandparents. And all that came back, and the day after that she called me and she said, I still can't get that out of my head. Where can I buy a bottle? Because she loved that. But when I let my girlfriend taste it or sip it, she's like, ugh. Because she doesn't like peat. She has no other, she's from Curaçao, so she has no association with peat. They don't need to burn anything there for the heat. They have the sun. So it's a different experience. And whether this is for you will always depend on your taste, but it's a great whiskey. And I don't think you'll be disappointed. And I am entirely sure that even if you don't like it, you can please some guests with it. So this is a good buy in my opinion, in either way. And on that note, I would like to say goodbye. Thank you for watching another review. Be sure to read the review on my website as well. There's some more information, especially on the kosher part as well. And leave a like, a comment, anything. I'd love to hear from you. And let's dramble on a bit together. Have a good day.